What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Seabolt TV, where I am going to today do one of my favorite things that I did on this channel. I've only done this twice, but this is one of my favorite things to do, and it is criticize bad Yelp reviews. My main interest in it is I feel like people overly complain about things because A, they want free stuff, but B, it makes them feel good about themselves. So I didn't pick apart things that were, let's just get into it. My wife and I both had an 8-inch pizza with margarita sauce and a few toppings. The sauce was so thin, I couldn't taste it. My crust was gluten-free and was a typical gluten-free crust. No outer crust, thin, flavorless. My wife's crust was similar to a flour tortilla, a little cheese, and few toppings. I was not impressed. I have a couple of issues with this, one of which being you said that you couldn't taste your crust, which is fine, but my problem is you said your crust was gluten-free, and restaurants won't just give you gluten-free unless you specifically order it. And then you said that it was a typical gluten-free crust, which means it's exactly what you expect and what you're used to, yet you're hurting this restaurant and making fun of this restaurant for it. So I don't really understand that. As far as your wife's crust being similar to a flour tortilla, unless you ordered thin crust, I just have a hard time buying this, man. If you ordered thin crust, I could understand it. But I don't know. It just seems, I don't know, man. Seems a little far-fetched to me. This steakhouse is the worst I've seen. High-dollar steak served on the most rinky-dink plastic cheap plate known to man. Don't order the surf and turf unless you want 3 bites and a crawfish doubling as a lobster. Terrible experience. I understand your sentiment. You're not paying for the dish that it's served on. You're paying for the food. Now, I get that presentation is key, but it doesn't matter how. If you pay $2,000 for a steak, you're paying for a steak, not the plate in which it is served on. So I have a large issue with this. I get it. Aesthetics is a big part of going to a restaurant and stuff like this, but it's not what you're paying for. Worst service in Durango, teeny portions. Our waitress was flustered despite having very few tables. Staff in general was walking around avoiding eye contact so they don't have to help. 2 things wrong with this. 1, just because you see a waiter or a waitress struggling or flustered doesn't mean it has anything to do with the customers there. She could have car issues, she may have a family member that's sick, maybe she has a kid that needs something or something. There's a lot of other variants besides just the table. Contrary to popular belief, the world does not revolve around you. Secondly, saying the staff is walking around avoiding eye contact so they don't have to help is kind of nonsensical. When I worked at GameStop, I would oftentimes walk around because someone had asked me, like, for example, if I was at the counter and somebody was like, do you have this game? I'd run out to the wall and grab it and run back. And I didn't make eye contact with people, not because I was like, oh, let me make sure I don't make eye contact so they don't have any questions. It was because someone had asked me to do something, and I'm doing that. Because I think it's a little inconsiderate of you to think that some other waiter or waitress should have to stop what they're doing at another table to come and benefit you because you think your waitress isn't good enough. It's not their job to step out of the line and say, hey, are you okay? I know I have a table over here. Because you know what happens if they do that? Then the people at that table are leaving the review that you did. So the world doesn't revolve around you. Everything's going to be okay. It might have been something else besides the tables, and just stop being a douchebag. Very disappointed in service today. We had a large party, waited a while for order to be taken, asked for an extra plate 4 times, finally got it, but after child had eaten half of her meal off napkin. You need to really work on how you word things. Had to fill our own waters. Okay, having to fill your own waters, that definitely sucks, and I definitely understand what you're saying. I probably should have looked in to see if this was a self-serve place, because some restaurants, even sit-down places like Tudor's, you still have to get up and go get your own beverage. So I'm not sure on that. I'm going to give you credit for that. What I have issue with here is you said you asked for an extra plate 4 times and you didn't get it. That's fine. I understand that. You said that you got the plate after your child had eaten half of her meal. My problem with this review, actually, is that you as a parent saw that your child was hungry and scooped half of your slop off of your plate onto a napkin for your child to eat. Why did you not give them the plate and you sacrifice? Like, that's kind of a douchey thing. I don't know. I don't understand. Like, and maybe that's not what I should be criticizing here, but to me, if I was in a restaurant and Noah wanted food and he was like, Dad, can I have some of that? Instead of slopping it off onto a napkin like a frickin', I don't even know what, I would just be like, here, take this, like, and then I would continue asking for plates. I get the plate thing. You needed a plate. That is fully understandable. But I have an issue with you slopping out your food onto a napkin for your kid to eat. That just seems, I'm not sure if I don't know. You don't really seem like a cool person to me. A really long wait for some really terrible food. Worse than Olive Garden. That should sum it up. I don't fully understand that review. I guess some people don't like Olive Garden, but if you don't like Olive Garden, why would you go to a restaurant that's similar to that? I have a problem. And then I thought to myself, this person probably is the type of person that leaves bad reviews. As you can see here, 11 one-star reviews. Also, I'm going to pop up a couple of other things because they complain about the same thing in every single review, and that is that their food is burned. Everything here circled in red is because their food is burned. I don't know. It seems like a cop-out thing. Maybe somebody who wants to attempt to get something for free. I don't really buy your story, dude. Orhouse is very impressed with their menu. Okay. The menu is very ordinary and extremely overpriced. For the price, I would expect a more elegant menu. The side items are nothing to brag about. I could easily make these items at home or get a steak that is just as good from the store that is half the price. If you're going to have an a la carte, then make sure something that stands out and is worth the price. Alright, I do have a couple of issues with this review. The first one being saying that because your steak is so... okay, I don't understand the thing where you say the menu is very ordinary and extremely overpriced, and it says for the prices that I would expect a more elegant menu. So does that mean that if your steak was $40, but because they don't also offer filet mignon, you feel uncomfortable paying $40? So if they added something else to the menu, you would feel better about it? Because what you're paying for is that. If I go to a restaurant and order a hamburger for $10, I don't say to myself, hey, this burger's good and $10 is okay, but you know what? You don't have a BLT on this menu, so this is overpriced. That's kind of stupid. Maybe I'm missing something there. Let me know in the comments. Hopefully I don't get flamed for that, but I really don't understand that. Side items are nothing to brag about. I didn't look at this menu, but I assume it probably has the standard sides that literally every restaurant known to man is, which is like, especially like steak places, so like green beans, mashed potatoes, probably some sort of corn, macaroni and cheese, probably baked potato, things like that. So I'm not really sure what you're asking. Like, I don't know what kind of sides you like, maybe caviar. I don't really know. You're complaining about prices, so I'm sure you don't spend a lot of money. And then it says, I could easily, I hate this. I could easily make these items at home or get a steak that is just as good from the store that is half the price. No crap. What restaurant are you going to go to is going to sell you something for cheaper than you can buy it in a store because they wouldn't make any money? If you think that, you may actually legitimately have something wrong with you. That is not how this works. Everything that is at a restaurant you can make for cheaper at home. That's a no-brainer. Everybody knows that. So that's one of the dumbest complaints I've ever heard. I'm never ever going to go to a restaurant and say, this burger was good, but I could make 2 burgers at home for $6.99. Well, no crap. If you have an issue with it, go do it. Definitely not pet-friendly, unless you consider your dog sitting outside while you eat pet-friendly. So I didn't understand this review, and then I went and looked at the Yelp review, and it has whether or not they're pet-friendly on it, and as you can see, they are not pet-friendly. It says dogs allowed, no, and she specifically mentions dog, so it's not like she was trying to bring a fish in. Yeah, I don't know. This was the most disgusting place I have ever eaten at. Actually, I couldn't eat it because it was so gross. Meat lying on top of a cabinet, refrigerator, really gross. I don't buy this review at all for multiple reasons. I have a hard time believing bad reviews, especially when they don't check in. And I guess maybe the older generation doesn't do smartphones and stuff, but I have a hard time believing that. My biggest problem is this is one of your stereotypical reviews of when somebody just wants to trash a place because you say, oh, this is the most disgusting thing I ever ate, and then you're like, oh, actually, I didn't eat. You're contradicting yourself, and I guess I get what you're saying. Maybe it was disgusting. I mean, if they had meat laying out on top of a cabinet, I don't know. You seem like the type of prudish person who, if they got something out of something, even if it was literally for 5 seconds, you'd probably complain about it. I would be anxious to see what the refrigerators looked like, because if it was a refrigerator that you saw, it's nothing that would be allowed to hold any kind of raw meat or anything, because anything that would be behind a bar would probably be, and if you saw it, it was probably a glass door refrigerator. And so therefore, if you're seeing that, unless maybe a drink spilled or something like that in there, like I'm not sure what they would be holding in there that could make the refrigerator so gross. So I'm sorry, I don't buy your review at all. Skip this place. They don't care if you're waiting to be seated. They will ignore you. There are a million Mexican restaurants in this town. First off, to steal a bit from probably a bunch of stand-up comedians, there's probably not a million in your town. I know that you're from a bigger town because these are in Durango, Colorado, because that's the random zip code that I typed in on Yelp to get these reviews. But I assure you, there's probably not a million. You may have 10 or 20, maybe more than that, but I wouldn't put money on it. So, I have an issue with this, obviously, hence the reason it's on this video. A lot of Mexican restaurants that I've been to, and this is generally a trend with Mexican restaurants, I don't see this a lot anywhere else. There's a specific restaurant in Princeton that I go to. It is a funneled, you walk into a door and it's funneled all the way down the center, and then it opens up and then it goes out, okay? I don't know if this did anything. I'm not an architect. I don't know how to display this to you. When you walk in and you're behind somebody in line, nobody comes to ask you anything, and it has nothing to do with them not caring that you're there to be seated. It's that you're going to get there when you get there. You're going to get to the front of the line when the other people are seated. I don't know what you're expecting. I don't know if you're expecting like them to hire like a magician or like a stand-up comedian or some sort of musician, maybe somebody that juggles, somebody that interacts with you. I don't know if you need a coloring book. I don't know, what any type of thing like that is that you would need to be interacted with to make yourself feel more important. But I don't really like this complaint because, again, you're going to get there when you're going to get there. Not every restaurant is set up to where you go in, give them a name, they give you a little buzzer, and they'll let you know. My other problem with this is you're probably the type of person, because this is how a lot of people are, if they were to try to talk to you throughout the entire time, you'd probably complain that you couldn't be on Facebook bashing the restaurant at the same time, because I'm sure you had your phone right on. You're probably writing this from the line right now. So that is my main issue with that. Alright guys, and that is it. Let me know what you think of that down below. This is one of my favorite things to do. I love criticizing bad Yelp reviews because people get so entitled and people think that they could do better, but they don't do anything about it. And that could go into anything, but this is the type of stuff I love. I love reading Yelp reviews and criticizing them, man. It's genuinely one of my favorite things. So some of it is a bit harsh that I say, and maybe some of it is a little bit in jest, but I do genuinely mean a lot of that stuff. Not everything. Obviously, well, it doesn't matter. The point is, people need to get over themselves, man. The world does not revolve around me, and it doesn't revolve around you. And I know that I'm generally one to preach positivity and stuff like that, and I think part of that is understanding the world doesn't revolve around you. Make yourself important, make yourself whatever you want to achieve or anything, but the world doesn't revolve around anybody. And so to think that you can walk into a restaurant and demand an attention because you're some dude who writes a Yelp review is kind of stupid to me. So, but guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. Thank you so much for watching. I really want to do this. Probably won't do this one every week like I do with some of the other ones, but I do want to do this occasionally. I really, really love this stuff. If you have a specific city that you want to see reviews of, just leave their zip code down below, and I will pick one at random, and that's where I'll do the reviews at for the next video. This was in Durango, Colorado, so if you know anybody from Durango, maybe the review is on here. So, but thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I will see you guys tomorrow.